students.
I'm very, very, very upset this morning. I'm very, very. No, listen. Some Ghanaians have to be serious. Can you imagine that with everything that's going on, Daniel? There's a story in the publisher. Actually, two stories. Let me start with this one. There's a story in the publisher that's on April 3rd, which was a few days ago. A group of about 40 people decided to gather and have a birthday party and booze and smoke weed.
Oh, why?
Because it was somebody's birthday, or one of them's birthday. 40 people, led by Cuban Starboy and Morgan Silva. They decided to gather to celebrate their birthdays near Barcelona Total at Spintex.
Oh, but that is so reckless and so insensitive, Winston.
Exactly, and the good thing is that they've been arrested. They're currently, in police custody. They're to be there for 2 weeks. And so, guys, it's a very simple thing. I know, staying at home is not an easy thing. All of us, we know how it feels like. But this is because of your safety. That's how come you've been asked to stay at home. We do not want the spread of COVID-19. We want to contain it. So if you are asked to stay home, just stay home. I mean, it's a partial lockdown. You can go out and get essentials if you need one. You don't go out there drinking and having parties.
Now, on this partial lockdown business, yesterday, I was driving home, and the regular streets that for the past week have been empty were so full. There were about hundreds of people. Around North Kaneshi, from Circle.
Yeah. It doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't.
What doesn't make sense even more is the fact that people are making fake identity cards, Daniel. And that's a story in the Daily Graphic. Fake identity cards to enable them to move. In fact, in Kumasi, it got so bad that the Kumasi Central Market had to be shut down yesterday because there were just too many people going around, just loitering around. And when I'm driving home from work, I see scores of young people. They are just like they are walking together in threes and fours. They are chatting. There's a new culture of people coming to stand in front of their gates with their neighbors chewing sponges. And I'm thinking to myself that do we actually realize that the whole world has come to a standstill almost over a disease? But what it takes for us to stay safe, which is stay in your house. So just stay in your house. That one too is a problem. Can I just say this to the young people? A lot of times when we started the reporting on COVID-19, we used to emphasize on the fact that it's people who are at risk are people with underlying issues and older people. But Daniel, here in Ghana, the statistics are actually showing us that it is actually the younger demographic that are at risk.
Between 25 and 59.
And young people are dying from coronavirus as well. So you can't say that, I'm young, I'm healthy, I'm fine, therefore it will pass over me. It may, but take the precautions and please, we beg you in the name of God, stay at home except you have essential services or you need to come out for something important.
It's too important what Enimo is saying.
Exactly.
But Winston, let's do the COVID-19 update and then go into the headlines, okay?
Well, when it comes to the Ghanaian situation, we still have the 287 cases as of 12 midnight this morning. Total case 287. 10 in Tamale, 256 in Greater Accra, 18 in the Ashanti region, 1 in the Upper East region, 1 in the Upper West region, and 1 in the Eastern region, Daniel.
Great, and I'll take you around the world very, very quickly. Someone says here that, do you blame them when the security are out there on the streets enforcing the lockdown? People are were sharing fake videos to cause public disaffection for them. Yes, there were some reckless ones, but majority of them were helping all of us. But what did we do? Everyone is at risk. I just wanted to read that text from a listener before I took you around the world. The Chinese city of Wuhan is emerging from lockdown. Lockdown is now a thing of the past for them. In the U.S., Tuesday brought the highest daily death toll so far, with a jump of 1,736. Meanwhile, Twitter founder Jack Dorsey has pledged $1 billion to help deal with the pandemic. And probably the biggest story is Boris Johnson going into ICU. He's now on mandatory oxygen support, so he's getting help to breathe. But we understand he's doing very well. Dominic Raab, who is deputizing for him, is saying that he's responding well to treatment. And so that's a brief picture of what's happening worldwide. And it's really a word of caution that if the British Prime Minister can be affected by this and he's now receiving oxygen, you that you're walking around in North Kaneshi in the middle of the afternoon, what do you think is going to spare you? Anyway, Let's do the front pages, shall we?
All right, Daniel, and I'm going to start with the Daily Graphic. And oh my God, this is a story that breaks my heart, Daniel. Doctors poised for action, vow to sacrifice lives in COVID-19 fight. And I'll tell you more about that later. Public defied lockdown directive in Accra, Kumasi. No exemptions from free water policy. That's according to the minister, and she'll be joining us this morning.
Yes.
And yes, to answer all your questions and to explain to us exactly what's going to be happening. On the back page of the Daily Graphic, customs officials intercept smuggled goods in Nanton. MTN supports government with 5 million Ghana cedis to fight COVID-19. And MTN will be here with us as well this morning, answering all your questions on your data and whatever is bothering you.
They'll also be telling us about that 5 million Ghana cedi donation they're making to the COVID-19 fund, which is very, very good.
Yes, thank you very much for that, and to everybody who has supported and donated.
Exactly. So the Business and Financial Times for today says, economy to grow slowest in 37 years, and I know you can relate to Niwa, all should tighten their belts. And in maritime, $93 million termination clause in Unipass deal strange. That's according to MPs. And COVID-19 impact on FDI, what could be done in the oil sector? And Absa Bank offers COVID-19 support to customers. And the Bank of Ghana provides 25 million cedis to feed 400,000 needy. And I guess the question would be, how did we come by the number 400,000?
That's a good question, good discussion. I'm sure you'll tell us about that a little later on.
Sure.
But the new crusading guide this morning, stand up for Ghanaians, President Akufo-Addo to health workers. Minority goes wild over investors breaching due process for government contracts, tackling COVID-19. NLA activates operations of official short code, *890#. ADB donates 200,000 Ghana cedis to COVID-19 Trust Fund, and surveyors develop software for COVID-19 detection and tracing. And that's it for the new crusading guide.
And the Ghanaian Times says, minority decries termination clause in Unipass contract. COVID-19 NLA introduces short codes for mobile games, and government rolls out tax relief allowances for health workers and will come out with better health system. That's according to the president. And president sends goodwill message to British Prime Minister Boris Johnson. Back page, 4 companies support Rebecca Foundation Relief Challenge, and fire guts Agbobulushi timber market.
Top story on myjoy9.com is coronavirus. Kumasi adopts shift system for traders at Central Market, and Joy News reporter shares experience after exclusive access to COVID-19 holding center. That reporter is our very own Latif Idris. Now, if you need food, call these numbers. That's also on the homepage of myjoy9.com. starfm.com.gh. COVID-19 electricity gas cost Ghanaians more than water. Mahama to government, and that was in the 6 a.m. news this morning. COVID-19, GHIS, Ghana Institution of Surveyors, developed contact tracing app to fight the virus. Innovation still taking the lead in this. Will be in Parliament. Only a recall focuses on coronavirus. Minority speaking there. That's on citynewsroom.com. COPEC, Consumer Protection Agency, sue NPA over new levy on LPG. And COVID-19, government must subsidize electricity tariffs. That story that's making rounds. Let me take you to the BBC.com. DR Congo frees 1,200 prisoners over virus fears. And Somalia now ready to test for coronavirus locally. And Ethiopia First Lady releases gospel song amid pandemic. We all need some encouragement, don't we? So let's get to the details, shall we? And this doctor's story is still eating away at my mind.
Yes, Daniel. So the president of the Ghana Medical Association, Dr. Frank Ankobia, well, he gave his assurance, that the members of the association are prepared to go the extra mile to fight the disease. This is the part that is absolutely heartbreaking, and I'll quote him. He said, "We know that some of us may be taken away by COVID-19, but that is not what will let us down. We will continue to mobilize all the health workers and fight to end this COVID-19. Now, he said this when he was meeting with the president, and they talked about other stuff, the local production of PPEs, how the private sector, is contributing and supporting them. He talked about the sacrifice that will be required for us to be able to overcome this, and also talking about intensive care units and how those are being prepared to be able to take on people, because Daniel, we know that at some point, if COVID-19 hits you hard, you will need to go into intensive care if you need to go on a ventilator, if you need oxygen support and all those things. So they talked about that. President Akufo-Addo also obviously assured him that the government will try and do everything that they can. But this morning, once again, I think we should just take a second to really just say thank you to all the frontline workers for this sacrifice that they're making. It's like looking at death in the face and saying we will defy you, and even if we don't, we will give our best to be able to help our nation. And you know how there's a scripture that says greater love has no
man than this.
That's that Christ
man will
gave
lay down his life for his
friend or for his brother. So thank you guys so much from the bottom.
Yes, but while we're commending them, and I was so touched when I read that the first time, and that is why, for those of us who are supposed to stay at home, we have to stay at home.
Exactly what was on my mind.
Yes, because Frank Ankobia and his team are putting their lives out there, and he says some of them would lose their lives. It tells you the seriousness of the disease. Don't go out because you think you stayed indoors for 1 week. People have been indoors for 3 months.
Yeah, I mean, Wuhan, that is coming out of lockdown, was under lockdown for 9 weeks. And yes, there's a challenge with money. I know that a lot of us need to go out and hustle to survive. I know that a lot of us have legitimate reasons to step out. But your life is way more important.
Very.
That's the thing that Lieutenant Colonel Michael Mfum told us. Your life is more important than any money, anything that you could go out there to do. So we can't overemphasize it enough. At least, the good news is the president is trusting our health system.
Yes, he is, and the president has also, been talking about how we're going to make sure that we improve upon our health system. So he's talked about how we'd come out with a better health system, and he says that, COVID-19 has opened his eyes to the critical role that private health institutions play in the country's health sector. And as is indicated, his government would in future develop mechanisms that would fine-tune the involvement of the private health facilities in the entire health system. And he's also talked about government's hopes of developing a coordinated public-private partnership to respond to the country's healthcare needs effectively. He's talked about the need to produce a lot of things locally, which the president says, is long overdue. And so if there's one good thing that we're going to be taking out of COVID-19 is also the fact that we need to learn to be self-dependent in many of the things that we will need in future, Daniel. Very
true, Winston. And at least it sounds like good news with the work that has been done. And a lot of word has been going out about the investments that the former government as well made in the health sector and all these hospitals that were built and how they must be utilized if we are going to beat this COVID-19 Now, let's talk about the economy very quickly, because that's one of the main concerns.
Because if you look at the Business and Financial Times, it talks about the economy to grow slowest in 37 years, and it's talking about all should tighten their belts. I don't know if you remember the famous tighten your seat belts. That's something President Kufuor
tighten your belt.
Tighten your belt. Used to say to us all the time. And former President Mahama said, the meat was down to the bone. Now we're told that the economy will be growing slowest in 37 years. 37 years is 1983, the famine that happened in 1983.
Wow.
Yeah, that resulted in Ghanaians having to ration food, for instance. And there were many people who at the time who were working would tell you how they struggled to actually feed. We're told that the finance minister, when he went to Parliament, talked about the fact that if there was an outbreak in Ghana, it would lead to a reduction of our growth rate to 2.6%. And if we were to go into a partial lockdown, it would reduce our growth rate to 1.5%. What we see now is a partial lockdown. And there are already calls for a total lockdown, even because of what people are doing. They're defying the partial lockdown, taking advantage of it and saying we're going to buy all of these things. So what the paper is saying is that if that happens, then we're going to grow at 1.5%. And if we grow at 1.5%, it's going to be more of a contraction of the economy. And what that could lead us into is to a bit of some unsustainability when it even comes to the repayment of our debt. What that would mean is that we'll have a challenge in a lot of capital expenditure, and we have to then begin to tighten our belts.
I'm just wondering, in all of this conversation, Winston, the big part of capital expenditure, which was building of roads and schools and what have you, in the country was dependent on this $2 billion Sino Hydro facility. We know China is out of the woods now, but they are waking up slowly. Their factories, not all their factories are going to work. A lot of them who were producing other commodities are now focusing on ventilators and PPEs, and their economy is not as strong as it was. I am wondering if that $2 billion facility will still be available for us. Even if it's available for us, construction is not going on now when construction can start. And so this government's plan to build so many roads, can it happen? That's the question.
Well, it's a very important question, Daniel, but when the president addressed us the last time, when he was locking us down partially, he talked about the fact that road constructions and railway constructions could go on. Clearly, that's indicative of the fact that there will be some road construction going on. Government has also indicated that they're going to be borrowing some 11.4 billion. So we'll be going beyond our, fiscal threshold. So if you look at it from that angle, yes, you wouldn't have the Chinese facility that was going to be used in building the Tamale interchange as well as the Takrady interchange, but you'd have some of the intra-city roads which are going to be funded by government being taken care of, except that there will be a reduction in it because government itself says there will be a reduction in its goods and service and capital expenditure by 1.3 billion Ghana.
This is why governments need all the support they can get, even in fighting this COVID-19 virus, and also making sure that we can rebuild the economy. And I'm so encouraged by what social media, corporate Ghana is doing and making all of these donations. The biggest I've seen so far is by MTN donating 5 million Ghana cedis to this. And so we salute MTN and we say that kudos. With all the challenges, you're stepping up to the bat and you're doing what must be done. We'll be joined a bit later by Seloma Dadebo, who is CEO. He'll be giving us some details of this, as well as answering your questions, if you have any, about the data challenges that you reported to us yesterday. And now the online news review is brought to you by Zenith Bank, in your best interest, and Goyle Good Energy. To all our valued customers, Goyle values our relationships built over the years. So let's keep ourselves free of the coronavirus disease and keep our stations safe by observing the following. Cover your mouth with tissue when you cough and dispose of the tissue immediately. Wash your hands with soap and running water, which have been provided at all our service stations, especially when you handle money. You can also use an alcohol-based sanitizer if you're not in a position to wash your hands. Maintain a minimum distance of 1.5 meters with other customers and or attendants. Let's observe these simple protocols and together defeat the COVID-19 virus. Now, if you exhibit any symptoms at all, do not head to the hospital immediately. Call the hotlines and ask for help on the COVID-19 hotline 055 22 22 004 or 055 22 22 005. Now, banking from home just got more exciting. Here's how. Zenith Bank has waived charges on all its electronic banking platforms to support you reduce your use of physical cash during these challenging times of COVID-19. Enjoy free transfer of funds and free payments from your Zenith accounts to any bank account via ACH and JIPS, Instant Pay, GIP, bank from the safety of your home. Stay safe with Zenith Bank's digital banking product. Zenith Bank, in your best interest. We're going to take just a few messages. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
*442# is the new mobile banking